June 4, 1944. A farmhouse on the outskirts of London. The blackout curtains flutter against a restless wind. Inside, a man sits alone. A radio hums softly beside him, its valves glowing amber in the dark. His fingers hover over the telegraph key. Juan Pujol García, codename Garbo, a Spaniard, a dreamer, and tonight the man whose words could reshape a continent. Outside, thunder rolls across the English sky, not from a storm, but from engines. Thousands of Allied aircraft wait on runways, their wings heavy with destiny. Pujol stares at the coded sheet before him. Each number, each letter, a weapon sharper than any blade. He begins to type. Enemy invasion imminent at Pas-de-Calais. In Berlin, the message will be read by generals who trust him absolutely. They will believe. They will prepare for the wrong battle. The telegraph key clicks, fast and sure. One man, one signal, one deception that could decide the fate of millions. 5 years earlier, Europe had already fallen into madness. September 1939, German tanks rolled into Poland. Within weeks, Britain and France declared war. But Germany's war machine was unstoppable. In the spring of 1940, the Blitzkrieg swept across Western Europe like wildfire. Holland, Belgium, France, each fell in weeks. By summer, Britain stood alone. Bombs rained over London night after night. Families huddled in cellars. Children were evacuated to the countryside. The world teetered on the edge of darkness. The Allies knew one truth. To win the war, they must return to Europe, to strike back across the Channel, to free the continent from Nazi rule. But how could they land when the enemy watched every coast, every tide, every sky? Adolf Hitler believed France was an impregnable fortress. He built the Atlantic Wall, a chain of bunkers, gun emplacements, and minefields stretching from Norway to the Pyrenees. Millions of tons of concrete, hundreds of thousands of troops, every beach, a death trap. The Allies faced a nightmare of their own making. If the Germans discovered where the invasion would come, the entire operation would collapse. Tens of thousands could die before reaching shore. So Britain turned to deception, to the invisible front of espionage, to men and women who fought not with bullets, but with lies. And in that secret war, Juan Pujol García would become the unlikeliest hero. Juan Pujol was not a soldier. He had never fired a gun in anger. He was a failed businessman, a restless soul adrift in the chaos of civil war. Born in Barcelona, he had seen his homeland torn apart by politics and bloodshed. He vowed never to follow tyranny again. When World War II erupted, Pujol made a decision few understood. He would fight Nazism, not on the battlefield, but in the shadows. In 1941, he approached British intelligence in Madrid and offered his services. They refused. He was untrained, unconnected, a foreigner. So he turned to the Germans instead. Using charm and audacity, he convinced the Abwehr, Germany's intelligence service, that he was loyal to their cause. They gave him a codename, a cipher, and a mission: travel to Britain and build a spy network reporting on Allied activities. Pujol agreed. But instead of traveling to London, he went only as far as Lisbon. From a small hotel room, he began to fabricate reports about British military life, all from newspapers, radio broadcasts, and pure invention. He described units that did not exist, convoys that never sailed, officers who were figments of imagination. And yet, his reports were so detailed, so convincing, that Berlin believed every word. He had fooled them once. But to make his deception truly powerful, he needed the British to believe in him too. In 1942, he contacted British intelligence again, this time with proof. Dozens of German transmissions that bore his false reports. They realized what he had done. And this time they said yes. He was brought to London, trained, supported, protected. Now, his lies would become the Allies' most valuable weapon. The British gave him a radio operator, a team of handlers, and access to real but controlled information. His fake network expanded into a web of 27 imaginary agents scattered across Britain. Each had a personality, a background, a distinct style of writing. There was a Welsh nationalist, a Venezuelan courier, a group of naval officers. All fictional, all believable. Through them, Pujol sent hundreds of messages to Germany. Every word crafted to build trust. Every detail designed to make Berlin depend on him completely. By 1943, the Germans considered Garbo their crown jewel in Britain, their most reliable agent. They paid him handsomely, unaware that every coin went straight into British hands. His reward from London was not gold, but purpose. He had found his weapon, and he was about to use it on the grandest deception in modern history. By late 1943, the war was shifting. The Allies had landed in Italy. The Red Army was pushing west across the vast plains of Russia. And in London, preparations for the greatest invasion in history were underway. Operation Overlord. The Allied return to France. The liberation of Europe. But to succeed, the Allies needed to deceive Hitler. They needed him to believe the invasion would strike anywhere but Normandy. The plan was called Operation Fortitude, a web of illusions, phantoms, and false trails. It would involve fake armies, fake generals, fake radio chatter. And at the center of it all, Juan Pujol García, Agent Garbo. Garbo's reports were carefully coordinated by British intelligence under the 20 Committee, the team responsible for managing all double agents. Every message he sent was designed to reinforce one grand illusion, that the Allies would invade at Pas-de-Calais, the narrowest point of the channel. The deception was elaborate. Dummy landing craft were built and positioned in Kent. Inflatable tanks were set up in fields. Fake airfields, fake supply depots, even fake wireless traffic, all to convince the Germans that an enormous army, the 1st U.S. Army Group, was gathering under General George S. Patton. In truth, it did not exist. But to the Germans, it was terrifyingly real. Garbo fed the illusion with meticulous care. He reported troop movements, fuel shortages, unit insignias, every detail crafted to perfection. He wrote of soldiers complaining about rations, of secret letters between officers, of pilots training for the big day. Berlin was enthralled. Abwehr officers praised Garbo as their most dependable source. They trusted his network completely. Each new report confirmed their expectations that the invasion would come at Pas-de-Calais. May 1944. The invasion was only weeks away. Garbo's radio tapped out its most critical transmissions yet. He warned that the Allies were planning multiple feints and diversions, but that the main assault would still target Calais. He even mentioned that smaller landings might occur in Normandy, but insisted they were distractions. It was a perfect blend of truth and falsehood. Enough accuracy to make his intelligence credible. Enough deceit to steer the German army into paralysis. The Nazi high command bought it completely. Field Marshal Rundstedt reinforced the Calais region. Hitler himself ordered armored divisions to remain there in reserve, even if other landings occurred. He believed Normandy was a diversion. Garbo had done his work. The stage was set. June 6, 1944. 3 o'clock hours. A cold wind sweeps across the English Channel. Thousands of ships churn the water. Overhead, the dark sky hums with the sound of aircraft. C-47s, gliders, bombers. The invasion of Europe has begun. At first light, Allied troops crash against the beaches of Normandy. Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, Sword. Gunfire tears the dawn apart. Sand turns to mud and blood. Men fall. Others push forward. In Berlin, confusion reigns. The first reports of the landings arrive. The beaches of Normandy, attacked by sea and sky. But Hitler hesitates. He waits for confirmation from his trusted sources. He waits for Garbo. In London, Garbo is calm. He types carefully, knowing the weight of each word. He tells the Germans exactly what they want to hear. That the landings in Normandy are only a diversion, a trap meant to distract from the real invasion at Calais. That the main force has yet to move. That the 1st U.S. Army Group still waits for the signal to strike across the narrowest channel. Berlin receives the message with relief. They hold back. The panzer divisions, the 15th Army, all remain in Calais, waiting for an attack that will never come. For 48 hours, the Germans refuse to move. Even as Allied divisions pour ashore, Even as paratroopers seize bridges and towns, the High Command insists. This is not the main assault. On June 9th, Garbo sends another message. He warns his German superiors that Normandy was indeed a preliminary operation. The real blow is imminent again at Calais. The deception holds. Hitler continues to withhold critical reinforcements. The Allies expand the beachhead. Within days, their victory is certain. Garbo has achieved the impossible. He has fooled the most powerful war machine on Earth. The weeks that followed saw fierce fighting. Normandy burned. Caen, Saint-Lô, Cherbourg towns reduced to rubble. But the Allied foothold held firm. From that fragile beachhead, an army poured into Europe. By August 1944, Paris was free. By May 1945, the Third Reich lay in ruins. The war was over. When the dust settled, historians would trace the turning point back to a single night in June, to the silence of a farmhouse radio, to a man typing lies that would save the free world. Juan Pujol García vanished after the war. Exhausted, hunted by memories, he disappeared into anonymity. For years, even his family believed he was dead. In truth, he had fled to South America under a false identity. Decades later, he was rediscovered, living quietly in Venezuela. The man who fooled Hitler had survived both sides of the war. For his services, Britain awarded him the MB Member of the Order of the British Empire. Germany, still unaware of his double role, awarded him the Iron Cross for outstanding service to the Reich. The only man in history to receive honors from both sides of the war. The success of D-Day owed much to courage. The soldiers who stormed the beaches, the airmen who fought above, the sailors who carried them across the channel. But it also owed a debt to the invisible warriors of deception. To the codebreakers at Bletchley Park. To the cartographers, the wireless operators, the couriers, the forgers. And to one man who turned imagination into strategy. Garbo's story reminds us that in war, truth is not always the most powerful weapon. Sometimes, a well-crafted lie can save more lives than any army. In the years since, declassified records have revealed the true scale of Operation Fortitude. More than 200 agents worked under British control. Fake units, phantom divisions, and double agents sent over 1,000 false reports to Berlin. But none were as trusted or as vital as Garbo. His deception delayed Hitler's reinforcements for nearly 2 weeks. By the time the Germans realized the truth, it was too late. The Allies had secured Normandy. The war had turned irrevocably in their favor. Today, when historians speak of D-Day, they speak of bravery, sacrifice, and strategy. Yet behind those words lies a quieter truth. A man in a room, alone, typing messages into the night. A man who fought not with bullets, but with belief, who created soldiers out of smoke and armies out of imagination, who turned fiction into victories. June 6, 1944, the tide of war turned, not only because men charged into gunfire, but because one man convinced the enemy not to move. That man was Juan Pujol García, codename Garbo, the spy who fooled Hitler and helped save the world.